Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of What a Hell of a Way to Dad. It's your dad's back. It is Francis and Nate. Nate, how are you doing? It's the 1st of May. We are, Jesus Christ, already almost halfway done with this year. How you doing, buddy?
I'm all right. I was thinking about it before we started recording because I was running some errands really quick and grabbed lunch, and I thought about my convenience store lunches in the United Kingdom versus here, and it's like, yeah, it's not really a fair comparison at this point. So it's beautiful. It's going to be like 80 degrees today. It was like 78 yesterday, sunny. I didn't realize how solar powered I am until I left the United. I mean, we're certainly living in the United Kingdom, but then after having left and realizing that, like, yeah, you like wake up feeling more energized because it's like, oh, the sun's out and it's warm. That is, you do get that in the UK, but just typically not this early in the year. We'll put it that way.
Yeah, I get that. We've been having a real UK weather, or I guess Seattle weather. It's just been raining nonstop the last couple of days. It is, and I like a rainy day. But also, like, when it rains like a week in a row, it means my dog can't be outside, and then she becomes a huge bitch, and I hate that. So I do want to give a shout out real quick, Nate. We had some fans come up to the Silver Ballroom this past week, to the 15th anniversary of the Silver Ballroom, one of my favorite little punk rock bars in St. Louis. So shout out to Dan and Zach and Stuart for all coming out. We have fan, like, it's surprise. I'm always surprised when we have fans that come out to meet me, but I'm also surprised that we have fans that live like within a mile from me. So that's always a little. It always throws me.
Yeah,
somebody's like, I've been listening to your podcast for 6 years. I live like a mile and a half away.
It was interesting for me because last June, I ran the live sound for Dan Beckner, who I used to do a podcast with, or rather I produced the show he and Riley from TF did called Bottleman. And so I got to know Dan, and I mean, I'd always been a fan of his music. He is, one of the founding members of Wolf Parade, and has been in a million bands, and have been a huge fan of his work for a while. And when he was doing the solo show in London, he rehearsed at the TF studio, and he asked, he's like, I kind of need a front of house person. So I had the chance to do live sound for him, which was really fun. And while I was there, afterwards, when he finished the encore, I stepped out of the control room in the tech balcony, and I was going to go down to start striking the gear on stage, like, unplugging everything and packing stuff up to take it back to the green rooms where we could load it out. And someone did the sort of joke bit from one of the Bourne, I think it's for the Bourne Supremacy. And they went like, Jesus Christ, it's Nate Bethea. And I was like, wait, what? And it was a Kill James Bond fan, but they recognized me. And they're like, oh, I figured you'd probably want to come see Dan play. And I was like, yeah, I was actually running sound for him. And they were like, oh, well, it sounded good as fuck. So, I mean, I shouldn't be surprised. And I was like, it's really nice of you, but I'm amazed you recognized me by my face. Because it's happened at a Lions show once where someone didn't realize it was me until they heard my voice. And so that was interesting. And it's like, yeah, it was nice. But I mean, what's interesting about it is, it happens often when obviously like there are shows going on, like before shows, people will spot us, certainly at shows, people talk to us. And I think it's interesting because you do get that, odd kind of being the attraction in some ways, like being the reason people are there. But then like you step out, I get on the bus back in London or whatever, and like nobody knows me. And that yeah. I appreciate being kind of brought back down to earth. It was very funny trying to get Dan a cup of coffee before the show, and like the guy at the bar was basically like, sorry, you have to talk to my manager. I was like, I'm literally the front of house for the artist who's performing that all 400 odd people who are here tonight are at the bar for. Can I please just get it? He's like, sorry, no coffee after 5 p.m. even for the performing artist. And so it's like,
it sounds like it's a setup specifically for elder millennials. Like, no, we know what happens if you drink coffee after 5 p.m. We can't do that. Well, no,
this is the thing in Britain. Like, even places that serve coffee won't serve coffee after like 5 p.m. Even pubs that have coffee machines won't do it. And Hussein has talked about this being like one of the challenges about the fact that like so much of English social life revolves around the pub. It's like people typically, Brits in general don't really have the same kind of thing as Americans about being like, oh, you're not drinking well. Like they're normally pretty fine with the idea of you not drinking. You know what I mean? But you still go to the pub is the thing. Like you're not getting out of the social event. You just don't have to drink alcohol. And for Hussein, it's like he doesn't drink alcohol, obviously. And it's like his options are basically just like to drink tap water or like to drink like a Coke.
Here's a Red Bull.
And he's like, obviously he likes coffee a lot. But he's like, they will just simply not serve it. Or if they do, they get so fucking mad about it. And so that's a cultural thing. There's here, obviously, like people drink coffee all the time. It's normal. Like there's cafes are open late. But yeah, I went on a little parentheses there. But yeah, I mean, for me, getting recognized, meeting fans is always really cool. I mean, I've gotten a little more used to it in the sense that with TF doing live shows and the other shows doing performances, like I've just had it happen a lot. But it is always interesting when it happens in the wild. That's happened to me once completely by random. I met a guy, I think we talked about on the show years ago. I went to a thing at a bar with some friends and friends of friends, and one of the guys who was there was a fan of Hell of a Way and recognized me by my voice. Oh, okay. And that was in like 2017. So that was, early days. So that was cool. You know, I mean, like it's nice that people listen, and, you know, I appreciate hearing from people.
I did get recognized by voice by a fan of Well, There's Your Problem.
Oh, that's funny.
Somebody who's a big fan of November, who listens to all of her podcasts and is like, wait a minute, I know you, I know this podcast.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's nice. We always like to meet the fans. It is funny that it kind of puts you at a disadvantage though, because like somebody who's been listening to like us talk for an hour about ourselves for 6 years, and then, you know, they come meet you, and me, I don't know who you are. Like, I know your name, but I don't, you know everything about me that I've been talking about over the last 6 years. So it is kind of a disadvantage. And Dan, who showed up, he kind of pointed that out too. He's like, I feel bad. I know a lot about you, but you don't know anything about me because I don't have a podcast that you've been listening to. So, but it is very cool to meet the fans. So thanks for coming out. We got another event coming up, but this episode's going to be out after that. But my wife and I have been doing a lot more in-person events, so St. Louisans, we'll talk about those more often on the show, and you can come out and see me. And if you come to my table and tell me that you're a fan of the show, I will probably give you free things.
Yeah, so I was supposed to be at the Lions show last month. I mean, it's a couple of weeks ago because it was in April, but today's the 1st of May. But I had a family emergency in that. So my flight was Thursday, show was Friday. And on Tuesday night into Wednesday morning, my daughter was a little bit unwell, feeling just like woke up, was crying a lot. She felt kind of hot. We thought it was teething. She was fine Wednesday morning. I took her to the childcare place that we take her to on Wednesdays. And the woman called me at about 4:00 and said that when she woke up from the nap, she had what seemed like a pretty bad fever. And she had a infrared thermometer, which, they're not super, super accurate, but like they're at least an indication. And she took a infrared like forehead temperature, and it was close to the equivalent of 105 Fahrenheit. So we were like, okay, well, I'm going to go pick her up, and then I'm going to take her to urgent care, because there's an urgent care that we know that we've been to before, and that, for Cynthia would be like a relatively easy train ride from work. So took her there, and I had given her ibuprofen. She still had a pretty high temperature. And basically when she was sleeping at urgent care, the cough would happen. It sounded pretty bad, but it wasn't like super severe yet. But they were like, her blood oxygen level is actually pretty low when she's sleeping, like low enough that she's going to need supplemental oxygen. And they kept her under observation, and they said, well, at a certain point, if her blood oxygen, if her saturation isn't high enough when she's sleeping, like she's going to need to be hospitalized. And so that point arrived. They were going to close urgent care. So they actually wound up, because we don't have a car, they called an ambulance, and we all rode in the ambulance to the pediatric hospital. And she got, checked out in one of the bays, and they ran virology on her, and she was positive for RSV, which you can get a vaccine for. But when we were living in the UK, it wasn't available. It wasn't really available here either. It is now. They actually can give, like during pregnancy, they can give the RSV vaccine. So, I mean, God knows, I wish we'd been able to. Anyway, she had it, and she wound up spending close to 8 days in the hospital. And the reason why was because, I mean, they told us, they're like, this is an expected thing with RSV, that like the 4th or 5th day, suddenly the symptoms will take a turn for the worse, that like the fevers will come back. She'll be obviously more ill. Doesn't happen all the time, but it's pretty common. We'll say 80% of cases. And this did happen. But so that was by Thursday, Friday. Like by Friday, she was really sick again. Over the weekend, she was doing a little better. By Monday, she was doing a lot better, but it was still the blood oxygen stuff. It was just not happening. Every night they'd have to come in and, they put the nose tube back in and turn it back on overnight. Cause the alarm would start, it would just get below 90 out of 100. And So that just kept happening, but she was getting better. She stopped having fevers. Her lungs were clearing up. They put on, they had us giving her like a salbutamol inhaler, and her lungs were getting better. And then Tuesday night into Wednesday, I was just like, yeah, it's because I spent the night in the hospital with her that night. And right around the time that we were going to bed, I was like, it just kept pinging like right around 89, 90. And I'm like, yeah, it's going to happen again. She's not going home tomorrow. And then I woke up at about almost 4 or almost 5. She had been coughing, and I kind of like, kind of consoled her. She was really asleep, but she got her back to sleep, gave her a pacifier again, and I had to pee. And before I left, I just checked, and I noticed that the oxygen wasn't on anymore. And her oxygen level was fine. It was like 97. And the next day they were like, yeah, she made it through the night without needing any. And I was like, I would never in a million years have guessed that was going to happen. But they then were like, well, we just are going to need you to arrange for a pediatric follow-up tomorrow with your pediatrician. But as far as we're concerned, she's improving enough. Like there's no zero risk at this point, so she can go home. And so kind of by surprise on Wednesday. So she went in Wednesday, and then Wednesday afternoon of the next week, she was able to get out.
That's great. Because if this happened in America, you'd be in so much debt at this point.
Well, so here's the thing, right? Here's the thing that's crazy about it. We did get a bill for the ambulance, which I was bracing myself for something obscene. It's like close to $1,000. I need to check with insurance. I think I can get at least half of it covered by insurance, and I because we do have what they call like complimentary insurance for her. I think I can get all of it covered. I don't know though, but I'll find out. I was just waiting on the bill from the hospital, which hasn't come because from what I can tell, everything was covered by insurance, which blows my fucking mind.
Yeah, that's insurance that's useful. Is so like insurance is just the thing that you pay money so you don't have to pay as much money later.
Like, it's expensive. Don't get me wrong. I pay close to probably like the franc has strengthened a lot because the dollar has kind of gone through the shitter. It's probably close to like $1,600 a month for the whole family for insurance for our monthly premiums. But I was checking through the policies, and if you're an adult and you're hospitalized, it's like 15 francs a day as a like supplementary charge for like hospitalization fee, but they don't charge that for people under 18. So as far as I'm aware, I need to follow up with them. I don't think we owe anything other than like our usual monthly premiums and stuff, which once again, I'm like, is this allowed? Is this like a clerical error that y'all are going to correct like in a year, and I'm going to get like a bill for 50 grand or some shit? That's the thing that's been really weird. Also, like, I mean, it was a children's hospital, so it's not like it was like a fun place to be, but like, I don't know, it just felt like it was designed for human beings. Like the room, we had a private room, but I mean, obviously there was like shared bathrooms on the floor, but like the room had a small sink, like a hand washing sink, and also like a big sink to do dishwashing. Like all of the kitchen cabinets underneath the sinks were empty so that the parents could put their personal stuff in there. It had like what they call a loggia. It's like a balcony that goes the entire length of the floor, the story of the thing, and you had a sliding door you could open to the balcony, and it had been completely
nice.
Child-proofed, so you could step out to get some air when the kids were feeling better. Like when she was feeling better, like they let us disconnect her. Like I obviously had to hold the cables, but disconnect her from the machines, and she could actually like walk around and get some air, and that like really helped, I think, speed up clearing up her lungs. There's a shower in the parents' bathroom. There was a little parents' lounge with like a microwave and a kettle and like an espresso machine. I mean, we just rotated out. I think Cynthia did 5 nights and I did 2 nights. And I handled all of the like going to the grocery store and getting all the groceries and getting snacks and food for us, getting supplies, taking laundry home. They had laundry, they had baby clothes. They were really nice. They had diapers. They gave us diapers. They gave us Pampers, which blows my mind because they're expensive here. And this isn't like private luxury hospital. This is the only children's hospital in Geneva. So like there were people there who were obviously in like a bad situation where like there were lots of other kids that weren't sick staying and being watched by the nurses because like I think one of their parents was really ill or both parents were really ill or something. And so like, but there was a lady downstairs getting coffee when I was there who was, I mean, I just from being around here, you recognize it. She was American and she had between the shoes and the leather bag, I would guess probably about $60,000 worth of stuff on. And she also was at the hospital with a kid. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's like it's for everyone, and they kind of mean it, and it's like it's nothing about that. I mean, it was kind of an older building. It had been pretty well maintained, but you could tell it was pretty old. Nothing about it was like this is luxury, but it was designed like there was a little vestibule before you went into the room where you could stash your baby carriage, so you didn't have to like have it blocking stuff in the room. They had like a chair that folded into a cot that was actually long enough that even I can sleep on it. And I'm 6 feet tall. You know, they just, I mean, like nobody's like, hell yeah, I'm so excited to have to spend a week with my child in a children's hospital. But having only ever had hospitalization experiences, I never have in America. I was hospitalized when I was like 3 because I ate a bottle of children's Tylenol, but I don't really remember it. I have never been hospitalized as an adult in America. All of my sort of dealing with family members or people hospitalized experiences in my adult life were either in the military, in military hospitals, or in Britain. So all I can really compare it to is Britain. And I don't know, it was better. I mean, the way we were treated was much better. They were much more accommodating. They were much more just, I think I personally was like stealing myself for like to be talked to like a fucking idiot the entire time. Because that's how it is with British hospitals.
Yeah.
And they didn't. They were really nice. And like not everyone spoke English super well, but like they did the absolute best they could to accommodate Cynthia. And then obviously when I was there, I would just speak French with them. And yeah, man. So it was, but then I got sick. Both Cynthia and I got RSV also. And that shit fucking sucks. I was sick. Just awful for like, I mean, not as bad as like the hardcore flu. And like, I would say my cough was way less bad than COVID, but the sinus problems and then just general feeling of malaise and like weakness was pretty bad. I was pretty toast. And so I mean, it was only over like Sunday, like last weekend that I really started to feel more like myself. And like, you know, for a while, like my throat was messed up enough that I wouldn't have been able to podcast. But my daughter's doing a lot better. They told us to expect that the cough is going to, you know, linger for a while, which it has, and like lots of like sinus discharges, but she doesn't need an inhaler anymore. She hasn't had a fever. She seems way more like herself again. So, I mean, I guess it went as well as it possibly could, given the circumstances. And I know there's just only going to be more of these, but I'm not going to lie, dude. I mean, like, you know, Cynthia had to be hospitalized twice when we were in Britain, like maybe like 10 days after our daughter was born. And then again, when she had a mini stroke in March of 2024. And in September, when she was hospitalized the first time, you know, they called an ambulance. We had to like get in the ambulance with her. And like, that was not a great fucking experience because they thought she might be having a pulmonary embolism. And for a second, there was a kind of a flashback feeling of like, oh, fuck, shit, God damn it, not again, getting into the ambulance again. But then like everything we did, everything about it was so different. I mean, I'm not gonna be like, oh, it's a good thing, but there's a part of me that it felt almost like medical trauma exposure therapy, if that makes sense, because it was like doing it again, but then it's like, oh, it's actually not going to be anything like the previous time. It won't be anywhere near as bad. And it kind of makes you feel a little bit, to me, like less concerned about if a medical thing arises. Because I think subconsciously we all do this, that if you've had a really bad experience with something, even if you're not like a phobia or like, you know, complete distress, dysfunction, problems around it, you are probably both consciously and unconsciously going to do everything you possibly can to avoid going through it again. And the possibility of it coming back is going to fucking stress you out. That's been my experience.
Yeah, especially as Americans, like, you know, if you told me that I had to be hospitalized, the first thing I'm thinking is there's no way I can afford this. You know, I have a good job, I have good insurance. There's no way that I can afford to go into a hospital and spend any meaningful amount of time. And we've been very lucky that our daughter has not got she got through, you know, the toddler years and everything, being sick like maybe once, and she's kind of getting over a chest cold right now. But for all of the frustrations that we have with her, certainly being sick has never been one of them. But you know, it's kind of like, you know, going to a hospital in America is a lot like, you know, when you see cop lights in your rearview mirror. There's just that sinking feeling of just like, there's like a 3% chance I'm not going to survive this. You know, it's a good roll of the die, but it's still just like, there could be anything could happen and I could die because somebody fucks up and nobody's actually going to be punished for that.
Yeah. I mean, I think for me, because it's my kid, there's a part of me that's like, when they said it, I was like, man, I really, really hope that this is just me suddenly not being good at French, but that's probably not the case. And I asked them, I said, like, just before I translate this, because I don't want to give wrong information, what you're saying is that unless her blood oxygen saturation improves significantly, like while she's sleeping now, she's going to have to be hospitalized. And they said, yes, because if it's like this, then there's not really any way that you would be able to test, you know, to monitor her or to administer oxygen at home. So we need her to be in a place where in the event of her needing it, we can administer it immediately.
Is RSV one of those where like it's you just have to get through it, or is there medication that they can give you for it? Because it sounds like, you know, as you're describing it as like, yes, we treat the symptoms, but stay here in case something goes more wrong.
I mean, in America, they have like antiviral medication they can give. I don't know how often they give. What makes RSV really freaky is that obviously my daughter is, almost 20 months old, but the big risk that people have is if really, really young children, like under 6 months get it, certainly under 3 months get it. The issue is that they can't receive any medication. There isn't anything they can give them for fevers. There isn't anything they can give them for the symptoms they have. You can administer like fluids, milk or formula. They can use cooling compresses. They can, do everything they can to keep the child comfortable. They did a thing that's basically what's the thing called? There's like a brand of it in America that it's like the little like nose aspirator thing where you suck the Frida. Baby Frida.
The little bulb, the bulb sucker. Yeah, the snot sucker.
Did that, but they did it with hooked up to a compressor. Like basically it was hooked up to a suction tube. So she obviously hated that, but the combination of they would put like saline in her nostrils and then suck it out. And they were doing that a couple times a day. That was one of the biggest things was like the mucus production, the discharge was really impeding her breathing. And so that's a thing where like, that's the way they treat the symptom. But I mean, Cynthia had a friend whose daughter got it when she was like under 3 months old in the United Kingdom, and she had to be hospitalized for like 6 weeks. It's pretty bad. So there is a vaccine. It's available in America. It's available. I know it's available here. I wish we had been able to, but we just weren't. There wasn't basically when we got here, if we had been able to sort everything out for insurance right away, we might have been able to get it. But I talked to our pediatrician about it. And he said, to be honest, it might've been a challenge because last September, Swiss insurers were doing the thing Swiss insurers do, which they were like, oh, well, we want to wait, make sure it's actually necessary. So like getting it would have been a challenge anyway. Obviously, like, it's entirely possible that she gets it again, but she's got, what's it called, antibodies and stuff. But from what I know, they treat it with, there are some antiviral medication that they use to treat it in the same way that there's the pill that they can give people for COVID, like that's like an antiviral. But I don't know if they do that here. I don't think they would administer that here unless it was really severe, because the symptoms weren't like super concerning severe. They were just enough that she needed to be monitored until she got over the sort of the worst of it, and then could be released home, because if things did deteriorate, then she would be right there in the hospital and there's more things they could do. So I learned a lot of medical terms in French.
There you go.
The word that
expanding your vocabulary.
Yeah,
good. Always
captivation is like the monitors, like the blood pressure monitor and the blood oxygen monitor, heart rate monitor, stuff like that. Obviously, this is the diode, or like the diodes, or the things they connect to. But yeah, they call it captivation for those things, and then they called it the mouche bébé, but it's a term they use for sucking the snot out, but that's aspiration, like vacuuming, which I knew that one from aspirateur is like a vacuum cleaner, but it's weird to be like, the vacuum clean my baby's nose, please. So they have a different term they use for it. Just learned, saturation is what they'd call, your SpO2 or, blood oxygen saturation. So it's like, that's all these things where I had to learn both the term in French and also like what they were medically, because like, I don't fucking know. I've never, you know what I mean?
You're the one asking, do you have the nose vacuum cleaner?
And then just basic stuff. I mean, it's been interesting. I've had a lot of things lately where I had to go deal with admin things or asking questions, or even just like going to the butcher to buy a certain cut of meat that they aren't going to just sell like, on the shelf or in the refrigerator. And like, I've been finding lately that it feels as though having these conversations in French, I'm not really struggling at all to make myself understood. Like, I get through the entire conversation, everything is understood. Like they don't default to English with me. Like, I'm getting better. So it's like things are good, but it's one of those, having a kid throws a curveball at you, and like time just didn't exist for
right.
Oh my god. And so like, I really appreciate you, for example, covering down on episodes, because like,
oh man, I didn't realize that she spent a week in the hospital. I know she was hospitalized. I knew that she had the RSV, but I didn't realize that you and Cynthia were basically spending 7 days doing vigil in a hospital. Yeah, that's 100%. Like, I'm not going to expect anything from you on that.
So yeah, I mean, I everyone's been really. I mean, I had to beg off and not go. And I mean, I appreciate Joe saying this, because I told him, I'm like, look, man, even when it seemed like it was going to be better than it was, there's just zero way I was going to leave Cynthia to be there solo, because like, beyond just the language barrier stuff, it's like, if you don't have someone else with you, like, you can't even like really get up to pee except for like when the nurses are there. Yeah. And Joe said to me, he's like, honestly, dude, if you had come, I would have fucking lost my shit with you. He's like, that would have been such a bad decision on your part. So I'm just really glad that never even entered into your mind. It's like, well, I guess that makes two of us because there simply was no way I was doing it.
Yeah.
So
it's a good thing that the live shows always have three people so that they're, if one person has to cry off,
shouts out to my friend Safine Moran, who's an incredible guy, and I love him to death. He has worked live sound and worked with me before, and this is now the third time he's had to cover down for an illness related thing because one time he covered down for me for a Kill James Bond show because I had a previous event that was scheduled from before they had scheduled the live show, and then for like they did 3 nights, I had to miss one, and then last August I had to miss one night because I was just so insanely sick again, and Saf covered me. So this is now the third time he's dealt with something like this, and he did a really good job. So it all happened. So I was really grateful to have friends who can help me out. But it just, I don't know, dude. It can be a challenge sometimes even when people are really understanding and accommodating, and they realize like this isn't just like an arbitrary thing. This is like you've got a toddler who's very, very ill, but I still feel a little bit like I'm fucking up because I'm operating at like 12% my normal capacity in every way. And that's just not like, we think about being, a high school athlete and then being in the military and all this stuff. Like there's some habits that kind of die hard, I guess. Like it's really hard to not kind of to feel guilty, if that makes sense.
To feel like, like I once upon a time was in my 20s and indestructible, and nobody could ever stop me, and I was never going to die. Nothing hurt, and everything was beautiful. And then you reach your late 30s and your 40s, and you think, oh, actually, life is precious. We can all die at any moment. And also everything does hurt, and this kind of sucks. That difference of I remember a time when this wasn't a problem for me to deal with versus now. Like I used to brag to my wife, it's like, it's fine. I can sleep anywhere. I was in the military. I've slept on airport floors. I've slept on, rocks. You and I have both slept in some of the most fucked up places being in the Army. And now, at the age of 42, if I'm not in my specific bed, I do not sleep more than 5 hours. So, all of us are breaking down and dying.
When I slept the night that I stayed, the last night I was there when we found out she was getting out, like I fell asleep close to midnight, and then I woke up about 4:45 because she was coughing and I had to pee, and I went back to bed. I fell back to sleep, and I didn't wake up until they came in for the 8 a.m. to administer the inhaler again. So notionally, I slept pretty close to 8 hours, but you damn sure wouldn't have known it. I certainly didn't feel like I'd slept 8 hours because I was sleeping in like a cot chair that folded out into a bed. And it's a hospital. Like there's family shit. There's other kids. There's babies crying. There's, alarms and dings and beeps and doors opening nonstop. Like it's not exactly restful. And also like I felt bad, but there were a lot of situations where like there were single parents who were taking care. And so like they had to have their other kids there if they didn't have family to watch them. And like a lot of situations, you're just like, man, I just feel bad because have older kids like, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old who are just kind of like have to just hang out in the children's hospital, but specifically in the baby ward. And like there's some players, but there's not very much for them to do. You know what I mean?
No, it's for the babies.
They can't exactly be like, oh, I'm just going to go have fun on my own as an 8-year-old in the city on my own. They have to stay there.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's just like, this is not a place I want to spend any longer than I have to. You know what I mean?
Well, I think that's every hospital, and when my daughter was born, my wife went to Mercy Hospital, and we had the same thing. We had a really nice room and everything, private room, very comfortable. Like it was one of those, like, this is a room where however you want to give birth, you can give birth. If you want to take a shower, they had like a big open shower that you could go and get into. If you're just like, I'm in labor and I want to shower, here's a shower. They had lots of different places where you could rest and lay down. And, it's really nice to understand that, like, as you're saying, there needs to be accommodations made. You can't just have this be the hospital where we put you in the bed and we make you better. They have to, they have this understanding that there's parents, there's other people involved. There's probably going to be other children involved, especially a children's hospital. I haven't been to our children's hospital, thank goodness. But everything that I see on the inside of that also kind of has that, same accommodation where it's like, we understand that this is going to fucking suck for everybody involved. So we try to make it as comfortable as possible. But yeah, like you said, it's still a hospital. It's still not a place you want to hang.
Because I remember got in a bike accident in early, I want to say 2022. It was in January 2022. I slipped on a frozen, like I was riding home, and right before I got to where I locked my bike up, there was a frozen manhole cover because it was an icy, foggy night. And the manhole cover had really iced over. I didn't see it. And I took a turn, went over it, completely lost traction and went sideways. And I thought I had gotten a concussion. I hadn't actually, but I'd hit my head. I was wearing a helmet, but I had sprained my wrist. So obviously I'm glad I went to A&E, or the ER in Britain, A&E. But while I was waiting, because I mean, like, it's obviously not an urgent medical condition. You know what I mean? Like it took like an hour and a half or so for me to be seen, but I did get seen. While I was waiting in the waiting room there, they like said some message over, and they opened the doors, and like some parents came with like a very small child on a gurney that was hooked up to like oxygen tube and like an IV and stuff. And I remember like doing everything I possibly could to like move to get out of their way, and just being like, God help you. I'm so sorry. I cannot even imagine. And you kind of think to yourself, like, please, I really just, I just hope that I'm never in that situation. And the weird thing is I was just in that situation now. Like I absolutely literally was in that situation. And if I have to be honest with you, I was worried for her, but I knew that she was in really good hands. And I think that it's possible in the United States that she might have been hospitalized that long because of, I mean, there's sort of the profit motive with American hospitals. I very much doubt it in Britain because, to be honest with you, I don't think that they would have had the bed space, and they probably would have made the assessment that like she was doing okay on her own, even without supplemental oxygen. Or if she had been hospitalized, it wouldn't have been for very long, I don't think. But I never worried that she was going to get wrong or incorrect or uncaring treatment. And I was a little bit like, fuck me, I guess there goes any savings I've rebuilt since we moved here. But I knew deep down that people don't go bankrupt for medical bankruptcy in Switzerland. It doesn't happen. That's not how the system works here. Even though you don't have socialized medicine. I mean, you have a public option, but it's only available if you're like below a certain income threshold. It's technically considered like a government benefit. But what I will say is when Cynthia gave birth in the recovery ward, there were basically three parents to the ward room with one bathroom. And our bathroom, the shower was completely flooded and didn't work. And like, it was bad. It was really hot. Even though they had air conditioning, it was really hot. It was really crowded. There wasn't enough staff. There was no men's bathroom, and there was nowhere where men could shower. And like, there was a unisex bathroom like near one of the staff rooms that I was able to find, but there wasn't a shower. There was nowhere that I could wash. And they told me, well, we'll just use the shower when a patient's not using it. And I was like, right, but it's explicitly fucking marked women's shower, and also it floods. So if I use the shower, beyond the fact that people are going to be, because British people are just, it's a whole thing. You might have heard about it in the news, of being obsessed with bathrooms. But also like
being obsessed with your genitals.
But also like, I don't want to be using the shower and then have it be fucking completely flooded after I use it. And then like someone who's just given birth has to also use it. And it's even grosser than it would normally be in this gross piece of shit, So I slept on a floor because they had a chair you could, but like it was the reclining chair they had for especially for second parents. There wasn't any way for me to sleep on it because I was too tall and it would cut off the circulation to my feet. So I slept on a yoga mat on the floor for I can't remember. I think it was 3 nights that I spent there. And I'll be honest with you, I was pretty fucking appalled at how bad the standard of care there was. Like the standard of care when Cynthia had the C-section was like absolutely world class. It was completely phenomenal, but they just didn't have enough staff. You know what I mean? They didn't have enough staff. The doors weren't automatic. So the nurses were constantly having to like prop them open to move patients through. The shit was falling apart. Like, and that's one of the better hospitals in London, which is one of the better NHS trusts in the country. So this experience was not that. I'll put it that way. It was not that. I don't know. Sometimes you feel survivor's guilt. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
There was a fucking machine in the 24-hour, like downstairs near the cafeteria where they had like coffee makers and stuff and water, the kettle, hot water, tea and coffee and stuff. They literally had a tap, like a fountain tap to pour sparkling water. Like you could pour out like a tap at a bar, like, but it was a machine for making sparkling water, like an automatic. Like was it like a Soda Stream kind of thing? Think of it like when you're in a bar.
We just have we have a 55-gallon keg of sparkling water.
Well, I mean, you presume that they probably have regular deliveries of oxygen, so they can just get regular deliveries of CO2 in a cartridge. I mean, I have a non-Soda Stream style thing. It's called My Soda. I've got it right here. I got a bottle of it right here. And I just buy these, whatever they are, the 6-liter, I think, bottles or whatever it is. There's a certain standard size of CO2 bottle that you buy, and
Oh, the 60
yeah,
ml,
yeah,
like,
yeah,
tall,
yeah,
skinny,
yeah. Hilariously, they're.
Yeah, because I do have a Soda Stream, but I got mine secondhand.
It's very funny because my soda, there's a generic style of bottle you can get that's the same one you're describing, and like every brand of it that you buy is like, this bottle is only, this was only packed whatever by this brand. Like any other brands listed on here that may be stamped on the bottle that's not to do with the actual supply chain, it's just bottle recycling. And that the reason why they're saying that is in case you get a bottle, someone's like, what the fuck? Why is this bottle stamped Soda Stream? I do not want to support that shit. But it's just, because it's the standard size.
Yeah, it's those canisters are all just the same cylindrical metal canisters. They all just have like a shrink wrap branding on them.
And downstairs there's a hardware it's like an appliance store, and they do an exchange program there. So I just literally when they're empty, I just go downstairs and trade out my empties for 2 full ones, and it's reduced my plastic recycling by like 90% because I don't have all these bottles of sparkling water anymore.
It is. I drink probably like that size bottle. I drink probably 3 of those a day of sparkling water. I'm very well hydrated.
We go through. I get 2 at a time of those cylinders, and I think I have to change them out like once every. I have to trade out like once every 10 days or so, 7 to 10 days, depending on how much. If I'm not working at home every day, it's less. But no, in the hospital, what they had was, imagine something the size of like behind the sort of taps was a machine that was looked like maybe the size of a mini fridge, but it was like the stainless steel thing. And it had basically, it was like, it was a refrigerator thing, and it was hooked up to like pipes and stuff behind it. So probably for water intake and probably also for a CO2 canister. There was one tap that was just cold still water, and the other tap that was cold sparkling water. And I was buying stuff, and one of the nurses recognized me because I was buying food for me and Cynthia, because the meals we got as part of the hospitalization were just for our daughter. We had to either buy our own meals or you could pay to order them. But I was down there, and the lady was like, "Oh, wait." She's like, you're getting 2 bottles of soda." When I was in line, she's like, "Why don't you just get a big one? Because I'll show you." She's like, "You can literally, no one cares. Take the empty bottle when you're done, come back down here, and you can fill it up in this machine and just keep using it." And so I was like, well, that's brilliant, because it's like $5 a bottle of sparkling water for a small one. So yeah, I would love to save money. Yeah. So yeah, like there were certain things where it was, I don't know, man, it's nice. But then there were other things where like, this is a hospital. This is a hospital in, it's the only children's hospital, and it serves everyone.
Well, everybody's good now, though, right? Daughter's at home, back smiling, laughing,
throwing things at me, yelling
stuff at you, tossing things out of the pram.
Yes, well, we don't have to say pram anymore. We can say stroller now, because I can revert to being American. I mean, I don't have to talk to Brits about childcare stuff, so I don't have to say British words. I mean, have you stopped saying strawberry? Strawberry? There you go. Yeah, Look at you. We're back. Yeah. Tell us. Put the Indiana back in you. We're gonna put it out there that we're back up. Nah, man. Fuck me, dude. This total side note, but they were talking about this stupid, weird Mark Andreessen group chat on an episode of TF, and one of the fans commented on Patreon, "Mark Andreessen in racial chats showing feet," and I was just like, I know exactly what you're making reference to, and I can't believe that's how cooked my brain is that I immediately recognized the reference to the Noré tweet. No, but what I was gonna say was, yeah, we're good. I mean, I was able to. Dealing with the frustration of trying to rent a business space and just how incredibly tightly regulated it is that no one wants to rent to my business because my business is a new business, even though I can prove that it makes money, it doesn't matter. So finding a landlord who's willing to rent, I've now gone through like 4 different instances of just not getting a place I've applied for. But I was really frustrated on Friday because I just realized when I was back from being sick, trying to get back to something, and like the places had been rented and they didn't even tell me. They just disappeared from the listing. And so I was like, you know what? I'm gonna solve a fucking problem today. I'm just gonna solve a fucking problem today. Something that's been lingering. So I went downstairs and I'd gotten my vision test the day prior to get for my form to change up my license. So I went downstairs, went to the little photo lab shop where a guy takes your picture. He took a photo for driver's license photo, got that done, got on my bike, had the most spectacularly beautiful ride to go from here in flawless weather to where the license bureau is, which is like, if you look on the map of Geneva, it's more or less, there's the north side of the lake, south side of the lake, and then there's like the kind of peninsula that's formed by the rivers. And if you follow the river Arve before the junction with the Rhone, that's like a lot of the older part of the city, and like perhaps put some of the like more the like the area around the hospital or area around that, like kind of bend in the river. And the license bureau is right south of the river, like right down there. So I had to basically come down, get onto like this protected bike path that follows the trace of the Arve River, and just ride on like a protected bike lane in perfect weather all the way down. And then I was there, and I was just like, I'm on fucking drugs right now. This is so gorgeous. This is better than anything I could do right now to make myself not fucking stressed out and pissed off. Like, this is so gorgeous. And I got there, and it was pretty crowded to wait in line, but I had all my paperwork. And I talked to the guy and didn't have a problem with it. And, everything I had was fine. He said he could issue it, and I paid the thing. They're like, all right, it's going to be in the mail. And then when I got like the receipt and the proof of it, because the guy was like, I joked about this on Blue Sky. The guy was like, he looked like halfway between like ultra marathoner and stoner, but he was probably taller than me, like dark hair, like brown eyes, brown hair. He had like kind of like stubble, goatee, mustache, had like the sort of what they call the man bun, non-pejorative, just long hair tied up in the back. It was wearing like a sport fleece kind of thing, like what you'd wear for, hiking. Like I said, he had the demeanor of somewhere between like French reggae fan and French ultra marathoner. And then I got on the receipt, his name was listed, and it was like the world's most Portuguese name. And like, that's Geneva. There's so many people from Spain and Portugal here. And so I was just like, everyone, when I tell them I live here, they just assume it's some kind of like weird stuck up money lord, Nazi, Germanic, weird standoffish thing. And it's like, look, there are some things about it that might meet all of those terms aside from the Germanic part. But most of what you encounter if you like have a normal life in Geneva is like you're basically in like an exclave of Portugal. And I'm looking outside. There's not a cloud in the sky. It's really sunny. Trees all got leaves now. It's like I said, it's like 80 degrees Fahrenheit today. So yeah, I'm doing much better. But I'm still digging myself out massively from all the stuff I got behind on while my daughter was in the hospital, and my own just inability to focus because it's just I don't know, man. It's not psychological shit. Dude. It's not super all psychological shit, but like my ability to focus on things is so limited now.
Yeah. And that's, welcome to being a dad, especially when you got a kid that like this stuff happens and then suddenly everything has to go.
And she's not sick that often, but this happened and yeah, it's just.
But nobody puts their kid in the hospital for a week and comes out the other end of it being like, no, that's great. It was all fine. We're all perfectly fine. Nothing to worry about. Like your child had things hooked up to them.
Yeah.
Monitors beeping. That's fucked up, and that's going to be something that sticks with you for a while.
And then you also have the fact that I think that I had just gotten to the point where I thought I was making progress on decompartmentalizing after years of compartmentalizing, and then it's like fucking.
You got to put it all back in the box so you can get other stuff done.
When I get out, they reel me back in. You know what I mean? Like just it's once again, I'm the warrior god king of compartmentalization, but not exactly great about uncompartmentalizing it. You
gotta unpack it all. Yeah.
Do we have an Ask a Dad question?
No, I didn't pull one out.
Do you want to make one up? I got one for you. Have you had a band that you realized you knew about but you never listened to, and then like years, decades later, you encounter their shit and you're like, hey, this is actually really good. And I'm amazed I didn't ever give this a chance before. Well,
so my music when I was younger, I grew up listening to either classical music or 60s and 70s oldies music, because that's what mom and dad listened to in the car. And I didn't really start breaking out into modern music until I was well into my teens. So there's a lot of bands at the time that, nowadays I think like, oh, that's silly that those bands are still together. But there was like, and it's very generic, but Depeche Mode. I had no idea how hard Depeche Mode was going to hit my brain, because I listened to, when I was younger, I was big into 80s music, but like, I don't know, Depeche Mode was just always kind of on the outside of that. And it wasn't until like probably till you started talking about it so much, because I know you're a huge fan of Depeche Mode. And then I go back and start listening and start like, oh, this is fucking my shit up in the best way possible.
I wouldn't say I'm a huge fan so much as there are some stuff by them that I think is genuinely like one of a kind. Depeche Mode was one of the first CDs. Like my brother and I were allowed to get a CD. It was like right after we moved to Germany when I would have been about 6 at the time, and Chris would have been probably 8. And I picked out Midnight Oil's Blue Sky Mining, and he picked out Depeche Mode's Violator. And I think Violator probably stands out as more, better of the two. But I mean, I think that's definitely Midnight Oil's best album. However, I grew up listening to it, and then going back as an adult, I'm like, there's so much more going on in this music than I realized. But to be honest with you, Depeche Mode's early albums are not very good. It's got a lot of filler on them. The first one, the one that Vince Clarke was the songwriter, like I actually like better than a lot of the sort of like, Gen Xers will hate me forever for this, but like the ones that became like the sort of like, if you were an alt goth kid in the 80s in America you were into, like I don't really like most of those albums at all. Don't even really like the singles that much. I mean, Stripped is great, but like, I don't know, People Are People just sounds too 80s for me, which I can't believe I'm saying that.
That one's a bit much. That one is a bit, yeah.
I mean, obviously, music for the masses onward, it starts to change a bit. But Violator to me, I don't know. Like, it's just it. Not every song on that album is good, but most of them are, and it just it hits really hard. And then obviously, Fuck Me, the opening to Songs of Faith and Devotion. What is the song? I Feel You. That I don't know. That's just it's great, and it's such a different sounding band than them with all four of them having fucking keyboards in 1981 or whatever.
If we want to talk music, we got to bring Jack.
No, that's
on.
true, man.
How about you? Who are you rediscovering in your old age?
Well, discovering actually, I would say maybe a better way of putting it. Well, I don't know. I mean, I just had a few things where recently I've gone back and listened to some stuff and kind of appreciated it more. But I would say the really strange one for me is so I like some bands that kind of fall into the genre what they call shoegaze, which is a term British journalists made up to make fun of these bands because they were so devoid of charisma that they're like they just stare at their shoes the whole time while playing their instruments. But like the big ones, obviously people know My Bloody Valentine, and I'm also a huge fan of Ride. I've actually seen Ride live after they reunited. And I recently started listening to a band called Swerve Driver that's kind of one fit in that, and then one foot in just sort of like alt rock stuff. I don't know if there's an American band that's from the Midwest actually. Did you ever hear a band called Hum? They had an album called You'd Prefer an Astronaut that has a song on it called Stars that's incredible and doesn't sound like any other 90s, mid-90s alt rock, post Nirvana backwash band. That's kind of Hum. It kind of sounds like Swerve Driver kind of, I mean, like they're around the same time. I was listening to Swerve Driver one day. I was listening to an entire album while I was cleaning the house, and a song came on after when it autoplayed in my headphones. And I was like, normally I'll skip it because like if something doesn't immediately catch my attention, but I don't know. I just, whatever I was doing, I was using my hands. I didn't feel like vacuuming. I was doing something. I didn't want to like click the thing on my headphones to move it forward. And I started listening and I was like, okay, this is obviously American. Just everything about the style of everything tells me this is American. And this is not 90s for sure. This is definitely later, I can tell. But I was like, but this is kind of good. What's going on? And then the song kept going. And I was like, when the chorus hit, I was like, okay, this is definitely American. I'm like, I don't know if this is like some kind of Midwest emo shit, like, because I don't really like that very much. And there's like one American football song I like. But I was like, okay, this is okay. But then the song kept going. I was like, wait, this is actually great. Who the fuck is this? And I looked at my phone. It's Rival Schools. Now, I don't know anything about Rival Schools. I know the game Rival Schools because we played it on fucking PlayStation. And I remember seeing that the band called themselves Rival Schools. And I was like, that's a cool name, but that's so goofy to take the video game name that I was just like, okay, I just completely ignored it. And I actually talked to Tom about this a bit because, I mean, Rival Schools is kind of in the genre of like New York City hardcore or post-hardcore. And the only band of that kind of ishness related somewhat that I like is a band called The Walkmen. I don't really like them a ton, but there's a few songs by them I really enjoy. But I went and I got on Apple Music and I got United by Fate, the first Rival Schools album. And like I'd say on most songs in it are good. And it's, I don't know, it might not be your thing, but if you like... Oh man, let me think of bands that are popular enough that it's like it's a fair thing to point out. I mean, I don't like the Mars Volta, but I do like At the Drive-In, and Mars Volta was the aftermath of At the Drive-In. If you like that, if you like Fugazi, if you like early Jimmy Eat World, if you like Sunny Day Real Estate, if you like Hum, bands like that from the 90s from America, you could pick up some traces of it in other kinds of like I don't know. What is that song? There's a song my wife really, really loves by a band that is not super well known. But I guess what is it? The Breeders is another band too. There's the one I'm trying to think of. It'll come to me later. But there is like it's obviously American rock music and kind of like post alternative rock music. I don't really like Sonic Youth, but it probably has something to do with that too. But I don't know. I mean. Here's one other comparison I'll make. If you like the first Foo Fighters album, just the first Foo Fighters album, I think you actually might like this album too, because that album is completely singular. I'm not a hater of the Foo Fighters, but I really like that album more than anything else they've ever done. And the story behind it is Dave Grohl played literally every instrument on the album except one guitar part by one of the guys from the Afghan Wigs. They tracked it at the same time. Other than that, it's all him playing drums and bass and guitar and singing. I don't know. And I was like, wow, this album's been out for 24 years. I could have listened to it at any time, but I was too much of like a hater and a snob to be like, oh, they named themselves after a video game. I'm not going to listen to that. And then I did, and I was like,
after a video game I've never heard of either. That Rival Schools, I had to look that up. It's a 1990s
fighting game. Yeah. I remember playing it like sleepovers with my friends when we were in 8th grade. And I don't know. So Walt Schreifels, apparently the lead singer and songwriter for that band, has been in a ton of other bands too. And so everyone I know who knows them is like, well, if you like that, you'll probably like all 999 other Walt Schreifels bands. I will say Quicksand, the earlier band, is pretty good from what I've heard so far. But yeah, man, I don't think I'm going to have a turn as like a 40 something and start getting into like Midwest emo and more like niche post rock stuff or post hardcore, but like I even played it for Cynthia and she was like, yeah, this is good. The song I heard was a song called World Invitational, and I was just like, yeah, this fucking whips ass. I don't know what's going on. Normally Apple Music suggests the worst songs in human history for me, so I have no idea what's happening.
I'll say the event that we did at the punk rock bar had a outdoor concert. Mm-hmm. And I got to be exposed to a lot of St. Louis music, especially punk rock stuff. And the owner of the bar has a band called Jeffy and the Sunken Heads. And it was a very refreshing punk band because it is that like 80s, 90s. We're going to play 3 chords. Every song is going to be 2 minutes long. And one of them is called Jackass. And the lead singer is just going to bray like a donkey for 2 minutes while we do this.
I saw a band signed to a label run by a friend of mine in Korea. It's a Korean punk band called Sidecar. And they did a cover of John Denver's Leaving on a Jet Plane, and it fucking whipped ass. And it was like in that the power chord punk rock style. And dude, none of whom is a native English speaker. And it ruled. Like that genre of music, that style of playing music can be a lot of fun. And I mean, like, yeah, I mean, there's nothing particularly advanced guitar-wise happening on Green Day's stuff, but like they do what they do really well. Or at least they did. I don't know what their new shit sounds like. They probably should have stopped putting out records a while ago, but like...
Well, no, you know what happens? What happens, because this happened with Fall Out Boy, you get snapped up by the Disney machine and you start making Disney songs because there was a period of time where like every kid's Disney cartoon had a opening theme song done by somebody, done by Fall Out Boy. There was also like 5 years when Owl City was really featured heavily in a lot of Disney movies too. But yeah, the Green Day, shout out to Billy if he's still, fighting the power and all that. That's great. But, what ends up happening a lot of times is these guys are like, well, I don't want to tour because I'm, also in my 40s or 50s and I have a family and I have a kid. But what I can do is session work for Disney and make a shitload of money because it's Disney money and I'm the guy from Fallout.
I mean, I will say, I was a huge Green Day fan when I was like a tween. I think I've told you this story before about my dad being like, have you ever heard of a band called Green Day? And I'm like, did you know me between the ages of 11 and 14? Do you remember any of those conversations? But they're out. Let me be real with you. Like, I liked this stuff because I was a huge fan, but like they're by the time they put out Warning in 2000, it didn't look like they were going anywhere anytime soon. Like they really didn't. The magic was gone. The momentum was gone. And then they put out American Idiot, and I think if it sold, it may not have sold as many records as Dookie, but it sold close. Like they basically did it again. I would never in a million years have guessed that. And going back and listening to it, like there's some stuff on that, like the 2 songs on that that are kind of like the 9-10 minute going in every direction possible. They're good. Like, I'm not saying they're like, that's the end all be all of music, but like they take the sort of confines of the style they work in and they make it interesting. There's some bits of that. The vocal harmonies are great. Like, yeah, general that I mean, like they're not a band I listen to on a regular basis. And like, cause I'm not, I mean, I feel like a dickhead, but like, I'm not a teenager anymore. Like my taste is broadened. I do still listen to them sometimes because it's nostalgia, but I like them. I just think that like when I listen to them, it's like, well, the production's incredible. Trey Cool's a very, very accomplished drummer. Mike Dirnt does a very good job as a bassist, creating a rhythm section with just one other instrument. And I don't know, I've never seen them live, but the songs are entertaining. There's a lot of way worse 3-chord or fucking power chord songs, bands, etc. out there. Way worse.
Yeah, I'm not really a fan of Fall Out Boy, but like I'm not offended by their music. Like when I don't think I've ever
listened to them. I'm sure I've heard them, but I don't think I've ever listened to them intentionally.
Yeah, here's a question. Do you know the band The Used?
I've heard of them, but if you could let me look up.
They're kind of an emo band from like late 90s, early
Name rings a bell.
My wife. Yeah, my wife was talking about, like, we were discussing, people who are super fans of bands that like are very confusing to us, like why somebody would be a super fan of it. Like, I get being a super fan of U2 or Fish or Dave Matthews Band or something, but like to be somebody who's just like, I'm going to follow the Used around, I
don't recognize any of their of this stuff. I mean, I looked at it, but I know the name, but I don't recognize any of the names of the songs or anything like that. So I probably never listened to them.
Yeah, I know. I think that it was like an emo band, and I know that you know a lot more. Yeah, formed in 2000. You probably know a lot more about it than I do.
I mean, the thing about it is that I started getting a lot more annoying about music in the 2000s. If it was on the radio in the mid to late 90s, I definitely would know it and like unironically consumed it. If it was in the 2000s, I started being a lot more of a bit stuck up about it. But I mean, some things bled through regardless. Yeah, man. I don't know. I think for me, it's just more like there's nobody to impress. There's no one at school to talk about. I'm not blogging. No one cares about anything I write on social media about it. Like, I listen to music because I enjoy it. And like, maybe as a musician, it's something that it interests me, like how they did that or like some idea that it formulates. I don't know. But there's a part of me that's like, if something's good and I find it fun, engaging, whatever to listen to, or my kid likes it, God knows it could be.
It could be Pokemon rap battles, which is something I've listened to a lot of. They were trying to,
can you play some music, that she might like, and maybe she can relax a little bit when they were hooking her up to something. And we're like, yeah, let's pick up what music we want to play for her. And it's like, well, the two things that she loves the most are the first Daft Punk album and David Bowie. And the nurse just started laughing. And she's like, that's a bit of a departure from Baby Shark, I gotta tell you. And I'm like, but we're not forcing it on her. She likes it. This is what she.
You need to be blasting Homework before you drop that IV into my. I mean,
she absolutely loves that album. She absolutely loves that album. It's like, I am not the kind of person who would. I mean, I'm sure her taste will change as she gets older and she can articulate it more.
Yeah, she'll realize Discovery is a better album, right?
Sure. I mean, you could make that argument.
We're gonna get people yelling at us about that.
They're two very different albums. I'll put it this way.
They are. They're both very good albums.
Yeah. Discovery is. I mean, the fact that it shares the name with an ELO album is not a coincidence at all. And I would be honest with you, if you go back and listen to the ELO Electric Light Orchestra album Discovery, you will hear some musical bits. You're like, oh, that's where the guys from Daft Punk got it. So just saying. Yeah. But Francis, I know we got to run, so we got to plug everything, but it's been great catching up with you. And like I said, I'm sorry it's been so long. It's just that life has this tendency to intervene, and it did in fact intervene.
I have a plan. It's always been kind of in the back of my mind, but I know that you love to talk music, and I know that I am not the best person to always bounce that stuff off of because I do not know music as well. But we'll get Jack on. I've been thinking about doing a segment where we each just bring two songs that we are listening to and talk about them. New songs, old songs, things like that. So keep an eye out for that. We'll coordinate something with Jack for that one, I'm sure.
Yeah.
We got to get Jack back on. Jack, producer Jack is great on the mic because he's been on the microphone longer than you and I have been. So he needs to stop being, behind the zeros and ones and come back out.
The song that my wife, actually I realized just before we go, the song that my wife really likes is Lazy Eye by Silver Sun Pickups. And I definitely think that fits in that same genre of kind of American guitar music. So, if you like that, any of these bands I mentioned, maybe check out that Rival Schools album. Who knows? They're on tour right now, but not in Central Europe, just in fucking Britain, where I'm not anymore, so I can't see them live. But maybe someday.
Look, I know that pain. I live in St. Louis.
Yeah, I grew up in Indianapolis. No one ever went there. We had to drive to Chicago and almost get in car wrecks and die all the time to fucking see bands. Anyway, thank you so much, Francis, and thank you everyone out there listening. It's great to be back, and we're going to be back in the regular weekly schedule. And I don't know, Francis, if you have some bonus content that you've been doing that you want to plug.
Yeah, so we're going to have a bonus episode. Another Deadliest Warrior is going to come out. Jesse James versus Al Capone. And this one, I got Josh from Worst of All Possible Worlds. He's been doing podcasts left and right, and he came on and watched some Deadliest Warrior with me. And I love this project because I keep introducing Deadliest Warrior to people who never would have watched it in the first place. And I think 45 minutes of exposure is about all that anybody should experience of it at this point. So
you talking about Al Capone?
Good.
And you talking about growing up listening to oldies and classical music. I'm going to leave the fans and you with this because I saw it last night and I'm like, this is so incredibly stupid and also very, very true. So shouts out to former Twitter, now Blue Sky user Bombs Fall, who wrote this. in characters, 1920s gangster says, "Yeah, boys, we're going to go murder some people tonight. We're going to be death incarnate. Hey, turn on the radio. Let's get in the mood for blood." And the radio goes, "Buzzy, buzzy bee. The bee goes buzz. Whoop, whoop, whoopee. That's what the bee does." And I was thinking about you saying listening to old-timey music. I'm like, yep, that's basically every song before 1960. It's just that.
Yeah. Well, I grew up on a lot of Beatles, a lot of Motown. Like I have
that's
a
different.
huge.
That's a whole. I mean, okay.
I know, but that's what like when I talk about like 60s music.
When you said oldie shit, I thought you were saying you like not 60s music like post rock and roll stuff. I thought it was like I don't know, like terrible
like
ragtime,
listening to 40s
Irving Berlin and Noel Coward and shit.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, it's time for some Chubby Checker. Actually, they did play some Chubby Checker on there occasionally. Yeah, they would dip back into the 50s. But no, I listened to, Beatles, Rolling Stones, Herman's Hermits, all those hits of the 60s and 70s, which is actually why I have no real appreciation for the Beatles, because all of the songs that people say are really good by the Beatles, I have never heard. All I know is like, love, love me do, and everybody's like, no, you need to listen to Happiness is a Warm Gun. And I'm just like, she loves me, yeah.
Yeah, Cynthia made this point before. She's like, I do like some Beatles songs, a few here and there, but I refuse to consider them the best band in the world because all I ever think of when people talk about the Beatles is, I want to hold your hand. Yeah,
exactly.
like,
right. Like they really grew up with Yesterday. And that's about the only growing up that I know. And then I know there's a lot of stuff beyond that. And I know Paul Simon's really, good at what he does too. I'm not a Paul Simon fan, but I can appreciate that he's good at it. But yeah, the Beatles, all of that stuff, I just have no...
all I can say is that if for the real heads out there, if you ever read Thomas Pynchon's Crying of Lot 49, there is a parody throwaway joke about a Beatles-esque band, British invasion band called Sick Dick and the Volkswagens, who have a song called I Want to Touch Your Feet. And I always think of that whenever I think of terrible British stuff. It's like from back then. That's all that comes to mind.
That sounds like there's somebody who made some AI joke music, and one of them is a 1960s era thing that's called I Glued My Balls to My Butthole Again. So kind of in that same vein.
I'm just still thinking about our conversation with Jack about the Jingle Bells by the Barking Dogs and the fact they had to cut every single one of those with like a razor blade and like pitch it up and down to make that song, and be like, how that's like better than the Ipcress file or whatever the movie about brainwashing people to be like mass murderers. That's like the Manchurian Candidate. You make someone do that, they are gonna go on the UT Austin fucking clock tower and shoot people. So anyway, love you all. Thank you for entertaining your two dads, letting your two dads entertain you, and we will speak to you very soon.
Talk to you later.